the movie I've been excited to talk about since I saw it this past weekend, Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright's most recent film, a psychological horror film, which you
Mm.
wouldn't necessarily expect from him. So a bit of a different direction. We really haven't seen him directing too much stuff since Baby Driver in 2017. I don't know if he's done any TV, but no movies, obviously.
Yeah, he had the
Um,
Sparks Brothers documentary also come out this year, but this is his first feature film since Baby Driver.
and I think when we think about Edgar Wright, I mentioned I watched Shaun of the Dead earlier. Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, well known and very like specifically known, right? Has a very specific style, a lot of like needle drops, very specific needle drops, I would say. Um, his films kind of carry this like light-hearted edge to like some very he's genre blending, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but usually like
Yes.
infuses comedy with a car movie, a driving movie, with a zombie movie, with a police movie. That's just kind of his thing.
He has a unique wit as well that he brings into his film. He's definitely a unique voice. And I mean, he's also really popular on Twitter. He's very well liked and has been for some time.
So Last Night in Soho comes out. I was very excited for it. Did Were you excited going in? What was your like tenor?
So I guess I wasn't super excited. I was like, oh, Edgar Wright movie, gotta see it with Anya Taylor-Joy, Thomasin McKenzie. I was already going to see it, but nice. Very happy
Yeah.
about that. I guess the fact that there's a psychological horror element to it made it like not like my most anticipated movie ever, just because
Mm.
that's not my bag. I was like, all right, I'll suck it up and watch it and deal with it. It's not really that scary. There's some jump scares, but like it's not as scary as even stuff like Us or Get Out, which aren't like even the scariest things ever, right? So I think
Right.
it's pretty palatable for people that don't like too much horror, and it's really only like the back half of the movie where it even shows up, right? Um,
Mm.
but yeah, so I mean, I'm also not like a diehard Edgar Wright guy the way some people are. Like, I think it's for me, it's the Scott Pilgrim. I don't have as much affinity for it the way a lot of people do. Most people say it's his
Mm.
best film, but like I like it, but I don't like love the movie or anything. But I did really like Baby Driver, which happened to be his biggest hit. So him getting the clout to make whatever he wanted next post Baby Driver being a huge hit definitely was exciting to me. And the fact that he wanted to do a period piece of sorts, 1960s London, was appealing. So I still was looking forward to it. Obviously, this was delayed several times out of April 2020 when it was originally supposed to come out. Anya Taylor-Joy had filmed this before she filmed Queen's Gambit. That's the timeline there.
Mhm. Did this movie? What were you? Did you like the movie? I guess let's just start there. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I think the beginning's a lot better than the end, though. I think
Hmm.
it gets a little muddy, a little messy, and I think it's, I guess, tough to grasp the message at the end. So I wouldn't hold this up to his best films, but I still think there's plenty of things to like about it, even if
Yeah.
it might not match his high standard.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I'm a bit more of a horror fan than you are. And I thought it was like fairly scary. I think it's right on par for me with like Us. Maybe Us and Get Out are a little more tense. I see Us as more of a horror film than Get Out is, but
Right.
um, you know, just the overall like style of the movie. I thought the twists in it worked really well. Definitely was surprised by like the ending twist of what was actually going on with the room and where like the spirits or energy was coming from. Um, I think there was a propulsion to the film. Like there were some points when things might have slowed down or cooled down a bit, but overall, I felt like it was paced really well. Love obviously all the music drops. I think there's one scene in particular that just stands out to me as like probably one of my favorite scenes from the year for sure. So I overall left really pleased. I do think there's some choices that happen at the end that just like don't make any sense, and we'll probably get to that. But overall, I really liked it. Why don't, I mean, just kind of like give the people listening who obviously hopefully saw the movie just a quick synopsis. Thomas McKenzie plays Ellie, art and design student, fashion design student, goes to London, has a hard time making friends in her dorm, rents a room. This room immediately starts to pull her, or she starts having dreams in this room, can interact in the dreams with Anya Taylor-Joy, who she's like embodying in the dreams. And
Right
then things
back in
start
the
to turn,
60s.
yeah, things start to turn not so good. I guess we'll just kind of like leave it at that, and we'll spoil more near
Mm-hmm.
the end. Tell me what you liked about the first half of the movie that worked for you so well.
Yeah, as you said, I think the momentum is good. I think all the setup is good with Ellie. And once we get that first like turn where she goes back to the 60s and meets Sandy, and doesn't meet her, but encounters Sandy and sees what happens. And then you get this amazing, set piece, which I think is right up there with a lot of his best set pieces, like the Baby Driver opening race or opening drive part and Scott Pilgrim fighting at the end. You get this kind of mirror walk and talk like dance between Anya Taylor Joy, Sandy, and Matt Smith's character. Meanwhile, Thomas McKenzie through the mirror is visible and still kind of mimicking that and dancing with Matt Smith. And it goes back and forth with your perspective. Obviously, very impressive how they managed to film that with the choreography and everything. But I thought that scene was really great and
Mm-hmm.
really hooks you. And as you said, I think the momentum really picks up at that point, and you're really invested in this. And you can, and obviously Ellie's character can't think about much else besides going to sleep at night to experience more of Sandy's, burgeoning desire to break out into the club scene in London as a singer. And I think that's definitely where the movie shined the best, is like that part right there. And I still like it a little bit after that, but I feel like eventually, once things start to go bad for Sandy and thus also go bad for Ellie, we get a bit of wheels spinning, but also just a bit of less interesting plot happening, right? Like the setup is so great and so fun. It was a little grating to me watching Ellie kind of lose her mind in front of everyone like the third time it happened, because nothing actually changed all that much with that. She wasn't learning too much more information. On the other hand, I love the red herring with the old man, played by
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Stamp. Thought that was done really well. Um, I liked everything with Diana Rigg, her final performance. So I think it's just a little messier than people might expect from Edgar Wright's best. But yeah, and I guess like once we start seeing her actually being haunted by the ghosts, once you know who the ghosts are, I don't know if it like dramatically totally like landed for me. And I think that's
Mm.
kind of like I feel like where the key problem could be with the ending in terms of whether you're invested in those ghosts or not. But yeah, overall, I think the beginning is really great.
Yeah, no, I think the first half of the movie is like undeniable. I think, like you mentioned, the setup. You really hate Jocasta so much.
Yeah.
What's her name? Sinove Carlson plays her so well. Just hated her. And I think you're really like bought into that feeling of like being a fish out of water type situation, just trying to like find her place. And you start to really enjoy Ellie finding that confidence as she's embodying Sandy and trying to like mimic her in real life. I think Matt Smith is just great in this, and he plays that like slimy, like cunning character just so perfectly. It's a little off-putting almost. He's definitely a star on the rise and has been for a while. Obviously in The Crown and Doctor Who, so he's had his trajectory is just up.
Well, now
But
he's gonna play Daemon Blackfire in House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones spinoff. Can't
yeah,
wait for him in that. Yeah, I
he's
thought he
gonna
was
kill
great
it.
in this.
Yeah, so I thought he was fantastic. I agree. I think a little bit of the like her losing her mind, being haunted by these ghosts in real life, does start to feel a little samey and maybe could have been shortened a bit. Although I do think the scene where they go to the school dance was
Mm,
really awesome when they
sure.
have Susie and the Banshees Happy House playing in the background was
Mm,
just like an amazing scene and has stuck with me. I've been playing that song all weekend, also playing
yes.
House of Balloons,
Yes, I
Glass
was like
Table
the weekend.
Girls. Yeah. Just been on repeat for me. Um, but yeah, I think the ending for me, when Diana Rigg shares with her that she was the real killer, I that actually surprised me. Not gonna lie, I did not see that coming, and I think that twist worked. I don't know if I cared so much about the guys that she killed because obviously they're framed in the movie as just pieces of shit, who just taking
Right.
advantage of these women.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thing too. It's like, are you trying to set up Sandy as like the actual villain? Because she was a someone kind of forced into prostitution and not happy with how her life went and a tragic character.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have were you trying to make me not like her? Because if so,
Well,
then I have to feel bad for all those ghosts that are asking Ellie for help to be freed and for
mhm.
revenge and stuff. But again, as you said, those are just the ghosts of dead Johns and abusive
Yeah.
men and everything. So it's like that kind of all got twisted for me. I wasn't really knew exactly where I was supposed to sit uh, with that. Uh, it's no big deal. There's a lot of like talk about like the the politics of like that message and everything, and
Right.
it's fine. Um, honestly, like I think Thomasin McKenzie is really good in the beginning. This is like her first like big like lead role since she broke out
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago. Leave No Trace. She'll be in Power of the Dog in a smaller role coming up later this year as well. Uh, everyone knows she's a really talented young actress, so looking forward to seeing more from her in the future. Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't have a whole lot to do. I think again like that first mirror dance scene with Matt Smith is probably her
Yeah.
best moment, honestly, where you get like all the charms and magnetism we associate with her as a performer there. But like dramatically, she's still kind of a supporting piece at the end of the day.
Yeah. Certainly more of a supporting piece. I also thought the scene when um she like breaks the mirror and then Matt Smith's Jack comes like find her and she's like running away from him throughout the scene. And I think it's like switching between her and Thomas and McKenzie throughout is a scene where she gets to do a little bit more as well. But yeah, she's just kind of a one note character for the most part. In terms of the ending, I think I wanted to just touch real quick. I hadn't thought too much about whether I was supposed to sympathize with Mrs. Collins or not, and Sandy, or see her as a that character. I guess I saw her more as a tragic character,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought more so the ending touched on the idea of nostalgia, and just
Yes.
like Thomasin McKenzie's character, has this longing for this time that is so idealized in her mind because it's a connection with her mother, and her grandmother. But really, I think what it's supposed to say is just like, you can long for these times that you didn't have, but when you actually like pull open what was going on at these times, it's not all, rainbows and butterflies and everything's shining like gold. There's a lot of real shit there, especially somewhere like London, which, famously has some very dark periods. And this movie highlights parts of that. I agree. I think maybe the message around Sandy is a bit muddled and mismanaged, but left up for interpretation, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, any other moments or anything else that really stood out to you about the film?
Overall, I like the production design of it a
Yeah.
lot. They did a lot of shooting in the Soho neighborhood, which, as this movie which suggests, as most people know, is a very hot spot. I guess like loosely, it's like the East Village, New York City's East Village equivalent in London. It's a popping area, and they did a lot of filming at like 3 a.m. and stuff to make it work. And like I said, I think that dance number in the beginning, which obviously had its own obstacles to clear to make,
Yeah.
really lands. So that's all great. I think Diana Rigg gets a lot to chew in at the end. She honestly gets more to chew on than Anya Taylor-Joy does at the end of the day. Funny enough. Um, and yeah, I honestly like love Terrence Stamp. Like when he dies, and then you realize that he was actually that cop from the flashback. It's like, oh fuck. I thought
Yeah.
that was done really well because they set him up as being really unlikable, and like you're
Mhm.
not rooting for him, and you want Thomas McKenzie to like nail him and like
Yeah.
prove that it was him, and that's all handled great.
No, I completely agree. You know, going just to circle back to some of the problems I had with the final scene. So Miss Collins poisons Ellie, and then eventually she just is like, "Oh, the poison isn't working on me anymore."
I wonder about that too.
Yeah, and also John gets like
fucking
stabbed in the
stab
stomach.
bad.
And then like a couple weeks later, it's just like at this fashion show, like it's all good,
Hmm.
bro. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's okay.
Uh,
I like
yeah,
John. He was just really like wholesome, nice presence as a character.
yeah. I actually have to say they didn't touch on this much in the movie, but an old woman going up to the room of a young woman who's with a black man in London could have been handled very differently in the movie, and
True.
some of the racial tones could have been brought up there. So I was actually surprised the movie didn't touch on that at all, but I think that would have taken away more from what Edgar was going for. So,
Right.
um, we haven't done Edgar Wright rankings. Maybe we'll do that in the future for the next movie he has
Yeah,
coming out. But
definitely.
you said that this is like mid tier for you. What would you put above it for sure? What's your favorite?
It's hard to beat Shaun of the Dead. I honestly should rewatch all of his movies. I didn't see a lot of them as an adult, you know. And it's funny. I feel like I'm higher on Baby Driver than a lot of other people. So I'd like to re-examine everything. But I think Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim seem to be at the top for most people. And then
Mhm.
At World's End is kind of like a sleeper hit for
Mhm.
many. Um, so I'd say it's definitely it's probably below most of those, but I'd have to compare it by rewatching first.
Yeah, I haven't seen Fistful of Fingers, which is his like student film back in
Right. Yeah, I
the
haven't seen it
day.
either.
Um, but yeah, Scott Pilgrim would probably be my favorite. And Shaun of the Dead. I haven't seen Hot Fuzz in a minute, so I'd have to probably watch to say more. It's probably like right below Baby Driver for me. Especially
Right.
if we're not including Ant Man where he was replaced. So
That's right. Yeah. The
right
Edgar Wright
there.
Ant-Man movie, what could have been?
Yeah.
Um, Also, we need to note that Last Night in Soho was a complete box office failure, unfortunately. Made only
Mhm.
4 million or so dollars at the opening weekend, which is below its paltry tracking of like 8 million. So just big failure there, which is big disappointment considering Baby Driver made over 100 million domestically, 226 worldwide. Just another example of how it takes a lot to get people to show up for more adult fare, even
Mhm.
though someone like Edgar Wright has a lot of fans, well known, and yet older people stayed home. So this is a Focus Features movie. Remember in 2020 they did a lot of like 17-day theatrical window, then right to VOD. I think it's basically a lock now that this movie will be on VOD in 3 weeks. So hopefully a lot more people will check it out then, because it just didn't work at the box office, unfortunately.
Check it out whenever you can. Go to the movies and see it, please.